passes through the plane of the galaxy, it's very likely, not that so much that the laws of nature will change, but that the conditions will change. The conditions for which our technology is designed are relatively low energy conditions. But as we pass through the plane of the galaxy, we're going to go through some very high energy areas, radiation bands. And this is already happening. I posted a link the other day on our forum of a report by a Russian scientist that gives a much bigger picture, overall picture of the current, especially ecological changes going on the planet. And he says, he puts together a bunch of observations from different satellites that indicate that the heliosphere of the sun is undergoing a profound transformation, receiving a lot of high energy particles from the galactic neighborhood as it passes through the plane of the galaxy. And that this is increasing the amount of current. You see, space is an electromagnetic environment. It appears to be empty, but actually it's full of charged particles. And these charged particles don't just rattle around randomly. They go in flows and patterns along lines of magnetic force. Magnetic fields, of course, are caused whenever a charged particle moves. That's how an electric motor works. That's how radio works. As soon as you move an electrical current in a conductor, it generates an electromagnetic field, and any charged particles in the neighborhood tend to follow that field. That's just the laws of electrodynamics. So space is full of plasma, and the plasma can have different energy levels, and the area that our solar system is moving into right now has a much higher energy level than the area where we have been in the last, few hundred years, especially. So what's happening is this increased energy flux is heating the whole planet. That's the actual cause of global warming. The greenhouse gases are one cause, but they're not the primary cause. The primary cause is the higher energy environment that we're going through. So what does that mean in terms of electronic technology? Well, our current electronic technology is designed for a relatively low energy environment. But this is changing. This is changing. And especially this next solar maximum in 2012 is going to be really intense. So we can expect that there are going to be some very high energy events, probably coronal discharges from the sun that are going to affect the planet. And if that does, the effect would be very similar to, there's a certain form of atomic attack that would produce a very strong charge, electrical charge, and would basically fry all the electronics in the region. And the way it works is that, of course, when a nuclear weapon goes off, it emits lots and lots of plasma, lots and lots of charged particles. And when these charged particles hit our atmosphere, they give off electromagnetic waves. And those waves can induce a current in any conductor. And so they would induce a current basically so large that it would fry all the electronic equipment, power grid, even car ignitions, what to speak of computers and delicate things like that. So this is an entirely possible, especially around the solar maximum 2012, that we're going to have a lot of heat energy coming from the sun. We're going to have a lot of plasma coming from the sun, maybe a coronal mass ejection, CME, or several CMEs, very powerful ones. The last time we had some really powerful coronal magnetic ejections was back in the 18th century, before our present electronic technology was developed. And there are historical accounts of everything metal becoming charged with electricity, and you get a shock if you touch it. You know, it doesn't have a lot of current, so it can't really hurt you, but it has a lot of voltage, and voltage is what breaks down semiconductor junctions and things like that, and basically fries computers and stuff like that. So, of course, now we have the whole world crisscrossed with wires. And when there's an electromagnetic pulse or a coronal mass ejection from the sun, this will induce very high voltages in those wires. And the system just isn't designed to handle it. It could easily just break down, especially in the northern hemisphere, because the northern hemisphere, the northern magnetic pole, is where the charged particles, see, the plasma particles are positively charged because they're basically naked atomic nuclei. So you strip off the negatively charged electrons and you have a positively charged nucleus. So plasma is basically positively charged, and it gets attracted to the negatively charged North Pole, and so that's why the aurora in the Earth is in the north, because that's where the charged particles enter the Earth's magnetic field. So it's very likely that if there is a CME event, it will affect the north more than the south here. Now that's today's physics lesson, kids. Are we having fun yet? So there's just all kinds of delicious disaster scenarios that we've been looking into in the last week or so, especially. Some new research has come out, very good research from people who have about a 70 to 80% hit rate on their predictions. And they're predicting some pretty dire stuff. To sum it up, it looks like a lot of the changes that we had anticipated coming around 2012 are actually going to happen in the next year or two. And that although those changes will be somewhat restricted in, at their location, in other words, something is going to happen way over there on the other side of the world, it may not affect us immediately. But the consequences of those incidents is going to have a big effect, and it's going to last for quite some time. So these things will occur in just the next, year to year and a half. And it's going to cause huge amount of changes in the world. Basically, it's all happening a lot faster than we had expected. So we are getting ready to change our plans. Our plan up until now was we were going to try to establish a self-sufficient farm community here in Chile. Why Chile? Because it's more economically stable than the US, and it'll last a little bit longer before it goes completely into chaos. And also it's cheaper than the US. Land here, you can get land here, good farmland, for like, as little as about $4,000 or $5,000 an acre, US dollars, current exchange rate. However, the two factors have made us seriously consider another plan. One is that the amount of time that we have is much less than we thought. There's also going to be a lot of environmental factors that are unpredictable. So if we established a nice farm community somewhere, and then all of a sudden the climate changes drastically, we may not be able to grow things. So instead of agricultural self-sufficiency, we're going into a model of storing food supplies. at least for the present. And the other thing is, we have not. We're on the verge of like a total economic meltdown. I mean, you think last year's stock market plunge and all that was serious. Well, this year's is going to be much, much worse. And probably the dollar won't recover from the problems that are coming up in the near future. So at this point, we do not have the capitalization to establish a nice farm community, even in a country that's as cheap as Chile. What to speak of the United States or Europe or expensive country like that, Canada or not even Mexico. Even Mexico, farmland is like, what did we look at? We were looking at 20,000 an acre or something for farmland.